Introducing Scott Ritter's YouTube channel, a platform dedicated to discussing the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Scott Ritter, an expert in international relations, provides in-depth analysis and commentary on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. With his extensive knowledge and first-hand experience, Scott Ritter offers unique insights into the historical background, geopolitical complexities, and humanitarian aspects of the conflict. Join his channel to gain a comprehensive understanding of the crisis, including its impact on regional stability and global politics. Through well-researched and balanced content, Scott Ritter's YouTube channel serves as a valuable resource for anyone interested in delving deeper into the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Okay, our next question is from Don in Toronto. Ukraine was shelling the Kakhovka Dam, right? Kakhovka Dam for months. Why did the Russians not defend the structure by taking out the Ukrainian missiles?
Because war is really, really easy. I know. I mean, gosh, why didn't the Russians shoot down every single HIMARS that was fired at the Kakhovka Dam? I mean, it's so damn easy. Anybody can do it. Third grader could do it. War's hard. War's really, really hard. And the Russians did put air defense systems in. And those air defenses do shoot down 8 out of 10 HIMARS systems that are sent downrange. But you know what happens if you park an air defense system in the same place over and over again? It dies, because the Ukrainians aren't idiots. They're out there, the United States and NATO are collecting intelligence. And one thing we're looking for is Russian air defense. And so we find the air defense, we lay down a targeting template, and we hand it over to the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians fire on those air defense systems. If they stay in place, they die. So the air defense systems have to be moving constantly. And now as they move, again, I'm giving away the secret about intelligence, guys. See, intelligence isn't just something theoretical. It's real. As they move, it's being detected. And you know what an air defense system can't do when it's moving? Shoot down something. So what you do is you create an operational tempo by threatening air defense systems where you develop a gap in the coverage. And when you develop the gap in the coverage, that's when you strike the target you want to hit, which in this case is the dam. And in this case, 8 out of 10 systems did get shot down, because the Russians aren't stupid. They still have air defense systems out there, but not enough. And 2 get through, hit the dam. And if 2 get through enough times, the dam collapses. That's just the way war works, guys. It's a dangerous business. It's a complicated business. It ain't perfect. But the fact that the Russians are shooting down 8 out of 10 HIMARS is pretty damn good.
Momin from Tunisia. Why do Western rulers, on the one hand, accuse and threaten China and Iran of supporting Russia, and on the other hand, give billions to Ukraine in the form of military equipment of all types, training, intelligence, money, and so forth? Are they blind, stupid, or evil?
They're not blind.
Okay. Is that the answer? Shall we move on?
I mean, he answered the question himself.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Craig Z from Long Island. Could you give a description of Project Aerodynamic and Operation Red Sox concerning the long link between the CIA and Ukrainian fascists to help me get a better understanding of the historical context of the current situation?
Sure. Once upon a time, there was a fascist scum-sucking pig named Stepan Bandera. He had other fascist scum-sucking pigs that they gathered together in something called the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. These are white supremacists who got off on murdering people. In fact, when Stepan Bandera was arrested in 1936, I believe, in Poland for murdering people, on the stand, he basically said, "I'm willing to kill millions of innocent people to achieve the objective of Ukrainian nationalism." So now we know his mindset. The Banderas modeled themselves off after the German Nazi movement organization, closely aligned in terms of their thinking, so close that when the Germans moved into Poland in 1939, the Banderists were with them. I mean, and then when the Germans moved into what is now Western Ukraine, but at that time was part of Poland taken over by the Soviets in 1939. One only has to take a look at the Rape of Lvov. There's some wonderful photographs, very entertaining stuff of Banderists chasing down Jewish women half naked because they're going to rape them and then they're going to kill them, because that's what Banderists do for fun. That's a fun afternoon. Get drunk, rape and murder Jewish women. And they did it by the tens of thousands because they're really good people. They formed death units. They roamed around and slaughtered the Jews. And then when the opportunity came in 1943, for instance, the fact is, I think maybe just the other day was the anniversary of the Volyn massacre. It's a wonderful thing. It's a good time. They really had fun killing 110,000 Poles. That's what Banderists do. They're murderers. The Banderists also roamed around Belarus. There's a horrible movie that the Russians made, and I can't remember the title of it right now, but it's based about a boy experiencing this kind of stuff. The death squads running around. It's a true story how they stuffed all the members of a village into a barn and set it on fire and burned anybody who dared jump out. True story. Banderists. So here are the worst people in the world, because they literally are the worst people in the world working for the worst regime in the world. That's the Nazi regime. And now the Nazis, they have this organization. It's an intelligence organization on the Eastern Front. It's run by a guy named Galen. And General Galen is using the Banderists as part of his resistance movement. They hunt down saboteurs. They hunt down Russian partisans. They're working hand in glove with the Nazis. But as the Nazis retreat, the Banderists stay behind as a stay-behind element. It's a concept of unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare. So they become guerrilla fighters for the Nazis, by the way, because that's who they work for. And their job while they're doing this is not only to kill Red Army soldiers, but they slaughter Russians. They slaughter Poles. Why? Because they view the Russians and the Poles as subhumans, because they're Nazis. And so Galen's running these guys, organizing them, keeping the stay-behind element working. And then the war ends. Germany loses. And Galen surrenders to the Allies, the Americans. And instead of taking Galen and putting him up against a wall and shooting him, as we should do, because he's a war criminal, a Nazi, instead we take him and his entire organization, murderous Nazi thugs, and we say, you now work for us. And all those Bandera scum that you've been running, who are murdering Poles, murdering Russians, they're now going to work for us. The OSS, which became the CIA. And that's what this is all about. The CIA used Galen organization to coordinate with the Banderists, who are operating in Poland, operating in Ukraine as a stay-behind force to fight the Soviets. And from 1945 until about 1953, 1954, there is a very violent war. How violent, you might ask? I don't know. During that period of time, around 250,000 Russians were killed. That's a lot. Around 48,000 of them were Russian soldiers, which tells you that there's a lot of fighting going on. Around 200,000 Banderists were killed too. This is big fighting, guys. This isn't little stuff. This is big stuff. Now, about 1953, 1954, the Soviets finally get the upper hand, and the Banderist resistance is stomped out. About 150,000 of the Banderists are captured by the Soviets. Off they go to the Gulag, where they belong, by the way. Everybody's like, oh, the Gulag was full of innocent people. Not in this case. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Sent away, 25-year sentences. The other about 150,000, 200,000 fled to the West, where they were welcomed with open arms by the Germans, the Nazis, who loved the Banderists, by Americans. Remember, I just want to remind people, 60 miles away in beautiful Ellenville, New York, there's a monument called Heroes Park. And in Heroes Park, there are statues to 5 Nazi thugs, including Stepan Bandera and people of his ilk. And every summer, the wonderful Ukrainian American people come together dressed in their brown Nazi uniforms, because they're modeled after the Nazi uniform. They carry wonderful little Nazi torches, and they hold up the portrait of Stepan Bandera, a Nazi, and they sing songs glorifying him. It happens every year here in America, because that's where the Banderists fled to. They do the same thing in Canada. That's so effective in Canada, in fact, that their deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland, is a Nazi. Her grandfather wrote a newspaper for the Nazis. She supports them. She was trained in the Nazi youth movement. That's that. In around 1956, after the death of Stalin, Nikita Khrushchev decided that he was going to rehabilitate people because, of course, Joseph Stalin was evil and bad and everything he did was wrong, including apparently putting 150,000 Banderist scum into the Gulag. And so they were released. And they were released into Ukrainian society. And what happens when Banderist scum comes back is they go into the shadows. They wait. And then they start to infiltrate their way up to the top. They start to pressure people. They start to get promoted themselves until they start taking over the reins of power. And who is running all of this? You got it. The CIA is running all of this. They're back there in the United States playing their little games in their computer, using Galen organization to stay behind unit, to maintain connectivity. They're paying the diasporas that are in Germany, Australia, America, and Canada to maintain connectivity. All this connectivity going on. They're coordinating the resurrection of the Banderist ideology inside Western Ukraine and all of Ukraine, with the goal of eventually ripping Ukraine from the Soviet Union, thereby weakening the rest of the Soviet Union, cause it to collapse. It's been a long time American strategic objective. And gosh, in 1991, it gets to happen. The CIA said, we won. So they stopped directly funding the Banderas because they didn't need to anymore. There's no need for a CIA covert operation because Ukraine is now independent. And so the diasporas take over and start funding the Banderists who are in Western Ukraine, using money from, say, the National Endowment for Democracy and other non-governmental organization sources. And they do that, building them up. They maintain the connectivity. So in 2014, when the CIA decided that it was time to oust the constitutionally elected president, Viktor Yanukovych, and replace him with something America could support, the only thing America could support are the Banderists. And so they rise up and they take over. They're in place and they've been in control ever since. Now people say, well, wait a minute, Scott, Zelensky wasn't a Banderist. No, I said they were in control. Control means, for instance, when Zelensky gets elected president and says things like, I want to do something that's against the Banderas, they pull him aside and say, you'll be hanging by the neck until dead on the main avenue in Kyiv if you even think about doing that. They're in control. The CIA is in control. We've been supporting Bandera scum since 1945. I hope that was a summary enough.
Scotty's on fire.
Sir, I am in awe. That was an amazing historical primer, if I may use the P word. The brewmaster from Wisconsin claims he's really a professional brewmaster, and he would like to know if you had an opportunity to sample some of the Russian beers while you were there.
Well, the short answer is yes, of course. I'm an American. I like beer.
And you want to be a gracious guest, too. It's only polite if they're offering you the native beer, right?
Well, let me put it this way. Going into Russia, I had made it known that I like wheat beer, and I was told that a very good brand of wheat beer is Tomsk brand, and so I was looking forward to imbibing with Tomsk. But I'm old now, so I can't drink a lot of beer. Basically, it's one glass, and old Scotty goes to sleep. And so it wasn't like I was pub crawling, drinking beer all the time. I had very few beers in Russia. And the whole purpose was to enjoy a Russian beer, not to drink beer to get drunk or anything. My job wasn't to get drunk there. In Novosibirsk, though, and I bring this up because this gentleman is a brewmaster. I went to a restaurant that was in the academic city. In the academic city, one of the things they do, they're a business incubator. And one of the businesses they incubated was this wonderful restaurant that has a microbrewery attached to it. It's like in America. I mean, there's a place right here in Albany, the Brew Pub, Marina? Pump station. And you go there and you sit down and you can see the big vats and all the brews, all the beers they have are right there on the menu. They're brewed right there. It's fantastic. And this place is just like that. You sit down in the restaurant, good steaks, by the way, and they have the beer there. And this is an American themed restaurant. I mean, they've got the photographs of every American movie out there. The soundtrack is as if they got into my brain and pulled out the best music of the 1970s and 80s and were playing it just for me. That's how much I like the soundtracks, the background music. Good food. I had their wheat beer, very good wheat beer. But the sad thing is that, because of sanctions, brewmasters like yourself aren't interacting with these people. Every June, that's this month, by the way. In fact, it might be this week. It is this week. In Novosibirsk right now, at this place, they're holding a brewmaster festival where they invite brewmasters from all over Russia and the world to come together and imbibe, drink beer, sing songs, eat pretzels, whatever you do when you when you drink beer. But the whole idea is to have like-minded people come together and talk about the art of crafting beer, the art of marketing craft beer, and how to make this a better experience for everybody involved. And you know who's not playing? You're not playing, brewmaster, because you're not allowed to go there because of economic sanctions. And if you know anything about the brewing business, and you should understand that this is a missed opportunity. This would be a wonderful chance for people like you to travel to Novosibirsk and to learn from other people about the art of making beer, the art of marketing beer, and the business associated with it in a global market. Wouldn't you like the opportunity to get some of your product maybe into a global market? You're not going to be able to do that now because they shut it down. But you know what? The rest of the world has stepped in. This festival is going. It's big. Everybody's having a really good time right now. And it's just a darn shame. But yeah, short answer is I drank a couple Russian beers.
I'm like you, Scott. In my advanced age now, I can't drink very much anymore, so I just delicately sip a little bit of wine.
Well, you have to be very delicate, apparently, with some of the glassware that you use.
That's correct. Freeman from Alpine Community. The British were to send 14 Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine along with depleted uranium munitions. Where are they and what happened?
I don't know. and nothing. I don't believe the Challengers have been deployed. My understanding